But good thing the liberal viewer is an expert on history and the Constitution.
As I noticed again the next month when Lee again decided to comment in one of my areas of expertise, making a video that complained about a report from the Federal Department of Homeland Security that warned of a possible terrorist threat from right-wing extremist ideologies, to which Lee then added the gratuitous smear of the American Civil Liberties Union that you can see here.
And by the way, where is the ACLU about this? Answer, the ACLU is not about civil liberties, it's about leftist politics, period. I absolutely stand by that statement. The ACLU was essentially started as a communist organization. One of the founders said, and I quote, "My chief aversion is the system of greed, private profit, privilege, and violence which makes up the control of the world today and which has brought it to the tragic crisis of unprecedented hunger and unemployment. Therefore, I am for socialism, disarmament, and ultimately for the abolishment of the state itself. I seek the social ownership of property, the abolition of the property class, and sole control of those who produce wealth. Communism is the goal." Roger Baldwin. So despite the fact that it represents the occasional big-name, quote-unquote, right-wing personalities, it rarely does, and it rarely takes actions on their behalf, ever.
Now, I've been a member and volunteer with the ACLU for a long time, and I know it's a nonpartisan organization defending the civil liberties of everyone, having defended in the past right-wingers like Jerry Falwell, Oliver North, and Rush Limbaugh, and even worse, on the issue of this DHS report specifically, all I had to do was go to the ACLU website and put the letters DHS in the search engine, and a blog of rights post from the ACLU's Michael German came up from the day before Lee's video, in which the ACLU criticized the very DHS report that Lee was complaining about.
That is so intellectually dishonest. One guy at the ACLU made a blog post that only 13 people have commented on since that time. The ACLU, to my knowledge, made no public statements and took no action whatsoever and did nothing to stop the government to do what they were doing, despite their millions of dollars in funding. And where was the ACLU when the entire state of Ohio looked into Joe Wurzelbacher's private records simply because he asked the president a question?
Given his apparent lack of concern for accuracy, but after this latest run-in between us, I finally got him to engage with me in a discussion of the multiple factual inaccuracies in one of his more recent videos where I caught him saying this.
John Holdren, our science czar, who wasn't confirmed by Congress, needs to go immediately. The guy is the biggest lunatic I think ever in the history of our country to be in our government, and I'm not exaggerating. The guy is for sterilizing the water supply. He's been quoted. He's for forced abortions. Yes, I stand by every statement I said there except for one, the one that I made a correction about, that he was confirmed. The only reason why he was confirmed is because no one knew that he's the biggest lunatic ever in the history of our government.
He eventually admitted he was wrong about Holdren being one of those czars not confirmed by Congress. He never took the word czar out of the title of his video, and he never thanked me for pointing out his mistake, but instead he actually attacked me, calling me a fool, and just sticking with his false smears of John Holdren, going as far as to say that his claim that Holdren supports forced abortions is supported by this quote from a book Holdren co-authored. I responded with more comments pointing out that in that quote, Holdren only says that compulsory abortions could be constitutional, not that he supports them, but...
Meet John Holdren, the lunatic in our government who believes in a false population crisis. He's a Malthusian. He believes that you can have compulsory population controls if the population crisis gets worse. Liberal viewer dishonestly cut the end of the quote and had the audacity to defend Holdren, even though it is never okay under any circumstances to have population control. John Holdren even talks about how it would be acceptable to have sterilizing of the drinking supply. He even supports the United Nations planetary regime, as he calls it, to control the population of the world. This man is sick, and liberal viewer is either has poor reading comprehension or he's dishonest. And liberal viewer had the audacity in the comments of my channel to defend this lunatic. Holdren is an animal. He has no business being in the government. And liberal viewer has the audacity to say that he's treating me nicely after questioning my motives and quoting me out of context. I'm sorry, he is a joke. Not to mention, almost every single video that liberal viewer makes is totally dishonest and false, and I'm going to prove that to you.
And I'm not sure how to react to that level of vitriol and dishonesty, especially since I've tried to treat Lee civilly throughout our communications, and I've only shown you a few of the many examples of Lee reacting to simple factual corrections with name-calling and personal attacks. and I've only shown you a few of the many factual and logical errors I found him making on.
I stand by every single one of my videos. I provide links to everything that I say, and only once or even twice have I ever been proven wrong on any of the factual arguments that I make. And yet I always make an immediate correction. Now let's see some of liberal viewers' misleading videos. I don't even have to go back to March. All liberal viewers' most recent videos are either misleading or false. Liberal viewer claims illegal aliens are not covered in the healthcare bill, except there's no enforcement mechanism to prevent it. Beck was not ignoring her, he ran out of time, the 9/12 event is not his, and Carol Browner was held in contempt of court for destroying documents. And the last video is actually the worst of all. He misleads his audience as to what Van Jones signed. Van Jones clearly signed a document claiming the administration deliberately allowed 9/11 to happen. Not simply allowed or was negligent. That's a lie. This fits into a pattern that makes me think liberal viewer doesn't care about being honest to his viewers. And this has been the visual fisking of the liberal viewer part 2.